Hi everybody, welcome to Let's Play Devil May Cry 3.
Stop. Hello there. Do you find yourself playing video games for an audience big or small that you may not care about? Do you find yourself screaming ridiculous slurs and everything you can imagine under the sun at a video game for an audience big or small that you may not care about? Well, my friend, you may just have the disease known as Playeritis. Or AKA, you're a fucking Let's Player.
Tell me what you said. I don't know why, do it, it's too late.
Let's Player, a term synonymous with modern-day walkthroughs to some, flipping out over barrels to others, and to me, just unadulterated degeneracy at worst, and slightly chuckle-worthy at best. And that's okay, because we're about to go over this in today's Shittubes about Let's Players. I'm your personal weeaboo autism professor, and in order to understand a little bit about Let's Players as a whole, we're about to go over some of the history of the term and its usage, and only talk about YouTube Let's Players. We're not game theory. We're not going to include random trivia like the first Let's Play being a screenshot Let's Play of fucking Oregon Trail. But regardless, YouTube Let's Plays are by now a complete staple to YouTube gaming, at least for new channels at most. And as far as my research has taken me, from what I can gather, the first ever video Let's Plays were done by a guy called Slow Beef, who branched out from Something Awful forums into YouTube. What he did was take the Let's Play format used on Something Awful forums, and turn it into a video format with commentary. And this led to what became the mainstay for a lot of YouTubers, especially those just starting out. I was even one of those people, beginning with some of the worst content I've ever made on the platform. In fact, it was so bad, I didn't even edit out a part where the game crashed, and I raged for like a few minutes. And this is the cherry lady. She pops through cherry, you know? Or, not cherries, berries or whatever. Hello there, would you like to have your free berry? What? No. Fuck! Fuck! But it wasn't until 2007 and 8 that Let's Players on YouTube would become a regular thing, in what I'd like to call chugging protons in the dark side. At some point in 2007 and 2008, what are now well-known names in the YouTube gaming spectrum had begun doing some of the earliest YouTube Let's Plays that they had become popular for. 3 of these people, as in the only ones I feel like naming, were Proton John, Chugga Conroy, and Darkside Phil. Or as I like to call him, Darkside Fapping. As far as Chugga Conroy and Proton John go, I don't have much experience with either of them, so I personally can't say much about how I feel about them. Though from what little I saw, it's not that bad, at least when compared to the third person on the list. In the case of Chugga Conroy, I can say that his voice can be kind of grating maybe. His voice can range from tolerable to outright squeaky, and sometimes it sounds like it's being forced, at least in my personal opinion. Proton John's case is a little different. His voice is similar sounding, but more tolerable. But many of his LPs either range from being as long as some of my own first Let's Plays, to outright outrageous in length. But in the case of Darkside Phil, things have always been kind of bad at least, and extremely ugly at worst. In Darkside Phil's case, he's genuinely bad at so many of the games he's played, while in some cases the complaints are actually kind of valid. Though this is an extremely rare case. Many times he's known to roast his opponents if he wins, but go full-blown Alex Jones if he lost, coming up with a mountain-sized list of reasons that he lost, that never boil down to the opponent just being better. His usual complaints range from,
how do you dodge?
Yup, I knew he was gonna do it too. Lame, I lost because it dropped my move again. Fuck this guy, I'm never playing this guy again. The only reason he wins is because the connection sucks. He's jumping back, I do headbutt.
Couldn't see. That's such bullshit. I couldn't see anything.
Can't move, I'm trying.
turn the right direction. He's going the wrong way. I can't get him to go the right way. Look, I'm stuck. Can't save any of this. This is fucking bullshit. I cannot save. Still can't save. I can't save any time in this fucking world. So if I die, I'm gonna have to start from the beginning, I bet.
Well, no shit.
Dude, you seen the lag? It's dude.
Dude, you seen the lag?
At later points, it became quite obvious how far gone Phil and his putrid, Teletubby-esque body had become, with the continuous shitstream of complaints, even going as far as dissing the people who built him his first gaming computer that he used on his channel.
The PC that I ordered 3 years ago, the one that I've used for 3 years, unfortunately I had some amateurs assemble it for me as a favor to them, basically.
At one point, he was even caught masturbating live on Twitch, pretending like he never knew the camera was on, as if he was just unknowingly stroking his pale chicken to an audience of young teens and young adults across the internet. But that's a story for another time. Come 2011 and 2012, and a big change in the Let's Player community on YouTube began. An era filled with unhinged autistic screeching at barrels, Asian men who love shitting their pants, and someone who apparently dips his head into septic tanks all the time. This is the era of Let's Player history I'd like to label as Jacksepticeye Pewds, enter the Brofist. 2011 and 2012 marked the rise of what would become the start of 3 of the biggest YouTube channels I've ever seen, with 2 of them being the biggest Let's Play channels that mainly do Let's Plays, with the other being the biggest YouTube channel in all of existence. The 3 channels I'm speaking about in particular are Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, and of course, Pewdiepie! It's my belief, and probably many others, that these 3 are responsible for the current environment surrounding how Let's Plays are done, at least in one spectrum within the entirety of the spectrum of YouTube Let's Plays. Ranging from the over-the-top behavior, which can sometimes be funny, the overused face cam that intrudes on parts of the gameplay footage, and the overuse of indie games that can many times make the videos extremely boring at worst, and good background noise at best. While Markiplier and Jacksepticeye would start off doing the same thing they do today, with bits of variety spliced in here and there, Pewdiepie is a bit of an interesting case, at least compared to the other 2. Maybe that's why he's bigger than the 2 of them put together. Pewdiepie, while getting his start on YouTube by screaming his pants off at barrels like a lunatic in an insane asylum, is far from being the Swedish racist killer of barrels he used to be, and has since changed quite a bit. He's now mainly directing his content to being about memes, memeing the shit out of political situations, and overall more discussion-based topics rather than, well, this. This was, for a long while, what you could overall expect from the content of Let's Players like Markiplier or Pewdiepie. High levels of internal screaming made external, jokes that don't really boil down to anything other than the fact that an object was around, and just overall unadulterated goofy behavior. Whether this was a good or bad thing is up to you to decide, but in my honest opinion, at least when it comes to Pewdiepie, it definitely needed to go. However, that's not to say it didn't help him stand out, because so far from what I've seen of the majority of Let's Play channels that I've seen, well,
I never realized how boring this game is.
While the few exceptional individuals were able to become noticed for being over the top, the majority of generic Let's Play channels would usually use the most boring of speaking voices, sometimes be soft-spoken, or even be so unintelligible that you couldn't even tell what the fuck they're saying. But most of the time they share way too many similarities, ranging from the goofy personalities, soft-spoken and weak voices that give the impression that they don't talk too much and have the confidence of Casper the Friendly Ghost, and playing games that they only play because other people have played it and gotten successful, which leads to the market being too oversaturated because everyone is doing it or trying to do it because it worked before for a handful of people.
There are too many of them.
In fact, this, at the time of 2016, was the beginning of my personal era of YouTube Let's Plays that I dubbed the triggering, the worst Let's Plays on YouTube. Remember how I said I did my own Let's Plays? That's actually how I started off when I tried taking YouTube more seriously. I had a few experimental videos before then, but Let's Plays is what put me into the mood to upload on a regular basis, which I don't bother with anymore, mind you, since I've learned what it does to people. But I started my first subscriber growth of 100 subscribers in part thanks to my Let's Plays. Considering my lack of a PC that could even hope to play those games, but I started off Let's Playing with one game, Pokemon the Uncensored Edition. One of the first glaring problems with my Let's Plays, especially with said Pokemon game, is a lack of decent audio, partially due to my living conditions being in a place where acoustic treatments weren't something I had readily available. The audio in my videos at the time I did these Let's Plays sounded horrible, and I still probably sound horrible to you, but they ended up making the overall quality sound like I was speaking out of the ass cheeks of Gordon Ramsay. Along with bad audio, I would make an overused joke of me being a completely different YouTuber. At times I'd call myself Pewdiepie or
Markiplier.
or even
Jacksepticeye.
I personally still find it funny, but more in a wow, I was actually that fucking retarded kind of way. Another glaring problem with my Let's Plays would be the fact that, as mentioned before, I would end up leaving in parts that would probably have made the whole thing a bit better if I had just bothered to take them out and toss them in the trash where they belong. In fact, any Let's Plays I did probably belong in the trash. What with everything mentioned before, my autistic voice that still hasn't changed, and even the many times unreasonable length to them. The only thing I will say that may be argued to have made me stand out, if I kept going that is the fact that I would edit up a lot of them to have montages of me raging out. Now, when it comes to raging at video games, some will say no one has DSP beat, but I beg to differ, okay? When it comes to raging out like a spastic retard, I would even stop caring enough about my public image that I'd scream in tongues.
You son of a bitch!
It may surprise you, but I enjoyed watching myself rage out like that. It was real rage, but it was funny to just sit there and make a mockery of myself, putting in the worst parts. But like I said, overall my Let's Plays, like many others, still lacked a lot of flair. They weren't as good as they could be, and in general, Let's Plays are never really that great. At most, they can be good for background noise, and when it comes to Let's Plays, they require a certain finesse to them. While they may have good camera quality or a shitty one like mine, or even having decent audio, they all lack a lot of flair that any video type could do for. Everyone wants to do it because some people got big on it, and those big people live pretty comfy lives because of it. And while I personally cannot see myself finding it to be an industry that I have very much personal interest left in, I can still find myself returning to some Let's Plays, even if it is just for background noise. Hell, some Let's Players are actually good for background noise because of how generic they are. Like the Rad Brad, who basically talks more about his personal life while doing them. I can't stand how generic and oversaturated it's become, but I can still find some use for it. Regardless of any potential it may or may not have though, it still suffers because of all these problems. Let's Plays at most worked before because it was very fresh, and there were some other factors that helped grow some of the biggest channels that do these types of content. But it's still a very oversaturated and dry market that has very little to offer. At most you can expect repeated jokes, goofy behavior or a lack of any behavior that can stand out, cringeworthy speaking abilities that border on stage fright, and overall boring edits that many times make either no sense or barely even belong. In fact, you know what? Fuck this video, I'm bored, so I'm just gonna do a Let's Play myself. Again.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!